Welcome back to CIA Declassified. Today we travel to the roof of the world, a place of ancient prayer and thin air, where the CIA attempted to build a secret army against the rising tide of communism. In the late 1950s, as the People's Liberation Army marched into Tibet, the agency saw an opportunity. They didn't just send supplies, they brought Tibetan warriors across the globe to the Rocky Mountains to teach them the art of modern warfare. This was Operation Dragon, a high-stakes gamble to keep the Dalai Lama safe and the Chinese military off balance in the most inhospitable terrain on Earth. The training of these fighters was one of the most closely guarded secrets of the Cold War, taking place in a location so similar to Tibet that the recruits felt almost at home. Operation Dragon involved the CIA training Khampa guerrillas, I think I'm saying that right, Khampa, Khampa guerrillas, at Camp Hale, Colorado, because its high elevation and rugged terrain mirrored the Himalayan landscape. A quote from a declassified 1961 memorandum to the special group. The Tibetan trainees have shown an extraordinary aptitude for small unit tactics and long-range demolition under extreme weather conditions. End quote. The CIA used unmarked C-130 aircraft to paradrop the trained Khampa fighters back into Tibet at night, often onto drop zones located at 14,000 feet. The agency supplied the rebels with over 400 tons of equipment, including M1 rifles, mortars, and specialized radio sets that could function in sub-zero temperatures. One of the most critical missions of Operation Dragon was providing the radio equipment and security detail that allowed the Dalai Lama to escape to India in 1959. A quote from Roger McCarthy, CIA Task Force Chief: "We were asking these men to do the impossible. We were asking them to stop a modern army with little more than what they could carry on their backs." End quote. The declassification shows that the CIA created a fake research station at Camp Hale to explain the presence of Asian men to the local residents. Agency pilots flew low-level missions through the mountains of the Mustang region in Nepal to avoid Chinese radar. The Khampa fighters were paid in Indian rupees and gold bars, as U.S. currency was useless in the Tibetan interior. A quote from a 1959 field report by Agent Tony Poe: "The resistance is fierce but fragmented. Without a central command, the Khampa are fighting a war of 1,000 stings." End quote. The declassification release reveals that the CIA developed a high-calorie Tsampa bar, Tsampa, a localized version of a survival ration to keep the guerrillas fed during long marches. Operation Dragon established a secret airstrip in the Mustang region that served as the primary supply hub for the resistance for over a decade. The CIA successfully intercepted Chinese military documents in 1961 that revealed the extent of the Great Leap Forward famine, thanks to a Khampa ambush on a postal convoy. Trainees at Camp Hale were forbidden from leaving the base, and all mail was heavily censored to prevent the location from leaking. A quote from the brother of the Dalai Lama: "The Americans gave us hope when the world had turned its back on the mountains." End quote. The declassified documents show that the agency utilized air-to-ground message pickup systems where a plane hooks a wire between two poles to retrieve intelligence from the rebels without landing. The project was officially codenamed ST Circus before being expanded into the broader Operation Dragon framework. Khampa warriors were known to sew images of the Dalai Lama into their clothes as spiritual armor before going into battle. The release includes weather pattern analysis used by the CIA to time drops during the brief windows between Himalayan storms. The agency provided the rebels with silent crossbows for sentry removal though the Khampa preferred their traditional swords for close combat. The declassification reveals that Operation Tingri was a failed attempt to set up a permanent guerrilla base inside a glacier. A quote from a 1964 CIA internal audit: "The cost per kilo of delivered supplies to Tibet is the highest in agency history, but the intelligence yield on Chinese troop movements is invaluable." End quote. Many of the CIA trainers at Camp Hale were veterans of the Korean War who had experience in mountain warfare. The declassification and the files therein contain oral histories from the survivors of the Chushi Gangdrik, the Tibetan Volunteer Army, CHUSHIGANGDRUK. Again, the Tibetan Volunteer Army. The program was quietly scaled back in the late 1960s as U.S. foreign policy shifted towards a rapprochement with China. The declassification confirms that the CIA helped establish the Tibetan government in exile's initial security apparatus. The agency used polygraph tests on all recruits to ensure no Chinese moles were sent to Colorado. The declassified documents show that the U.S. government denied the existence of the Camp Hale program to the public until the late 1990s. Operation Dragon remains a point of deep pride for the Tibetan descendants, representing their first modern military resistance. The CIA developed a specialized oxygen-regulated parachute for the Khampa to prevent them from passing out during high-altitude jumps. Declassified reports indicate the agency experimented with using high-altitude balloons to relay radio signals over the mountains, bypassing the limitations of line-of-sight communication. A quote from a 1957 Office of Policy Coordination directive: "Our primary objective in the Tibetan theater is the maintenance of a resistance capability that forces the adversary to commit disproportionate resources to internal security." End quote. The agency successfully retrieved several samples of Soviet-made Chinese weapons from the Khampa rebels, allowing U.S. ballistics experts to analyze Eastern Bloc manufacturing standards. In a show of extreme commitment, CIA officers at Camp Hale reportedly ate traditional Tibetan meals with the recruits to build a bond of trust before deployment. A quote from Lamau Sering, a resistance liaison. His name is spelled LHAMO space TSERING. His quote: "The Colorado Mountains were our training ground for a freedom we intended to take back to the sky." End quote. While the guerrilla tactics are well documented, a 1962 dossier titled Dragon Supplement 12, The Lhasa Artifacts, is almost entirely redacted. Why is the CIA hiding what they found in the ancient temples? Get ready for the theory of the Yeti units. Speculation suggests that Operation Dragon wasn't just about monks and rifles, but about finding an ancient power hidden in the deepest monasteries. The theory claims that the Khampa were actually guards for CIA relic teams who were hunting for gravity-defying stones described in ancient Tibetan scrolls. The black redactions are believed to hide the arcane artifacts the agency smuggled out, which some say are now powering a secret base under the Colorado mountains. What if they never left? A dark rumor suggests the CIA still has a ghost army living in the Tibetan caves. The speculation is that the redactions hide the eternal supply manifest for a unit of fighters who were given an experimental longevity serum and told to hold the passes until the final signal. The black ink covers the frequencies that haven't been broadcast since 1959. Could the mountains talk? Speculation suggests the redactions hide Project Echo Chamber, where the CIA used the natural resonance of the Himalayan valleys to broadcast telepathic propaganda to the Chinese troops, and the black bars are the scripts of the subconscious. Watch out for the clockwork Buddha theory. It claims the redactions hide photos of a 2,000-year-old mechanical computer found in Lhasa basement, and the black ink covers the source code the agency stole. What if the plateaus are landing pads? Some believe the redactions hide Project Vimana, where the CIA found evidence of ancient flight technology, and the black bars hide the flight manuals written in Sanskrit. Could they walk through walls? A wild rumor suggests the redactions hide Operation Phantom Step, an attempt to weaponize the astral projection techniques of high-level lamas for deep cover spying. Brace for the nuclear nirvana theory. It claims the redactions prove the Dalai Lama's escape was a distraction to hide the CIA stealing a natural nuclear reactor hidden under the Potala Palace. Some believe the redactions hide the inner mountain map. Speculation suggests Operation Dragon discovered a hollow earth entry point in the Himalayas, and the black bars are the entrance coordinates. Beware the serpent blood rumor. It claims the redactions hide genetic tests on Khampa fighters that showed they weren't entirely human, and the black ink covers the hybrid heritage files. Some speculate the black bars hide the doomsday prayer. The theory is that the CIA found a sound frequency that could trigger massive earthquakes in China, and the redactions are the acoustic blueprints. Gossip from the deep web whispers about the Dust Walkers, a supposed unit of Khampa rebels who were taught how to turn into literal mountain mist to bypass Chinese checkpoints. The theory is the redactions cover the molecular stabilization formulas needed to bring them back to solid form. Buckle up for the Oracle Array theory. It suggests the CIA didn't use radio towers, but actually used state oracles in a trance to communicate with agents in DC. The black redactions, those are supposedly the transcripts of the spirits telling the agency that the mission would ultimately fail, which is very optimistic if you look at the CIA as a whole. It is very optimistic. Yes, 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 it is. As far as that goes, some speculate that the bars have to do with the Nei Chung theory. It claims the redactions hide the agency's attempts to use the state oracle of Tibet to predict the outcome of the Cold War, and the black bars cover the future timelines that haven't happened yet. Lastly, is the Kingdom a radio station? A dark rumor suggests the redactions hide Operation Lost Horizon, where the CIA found Shambhala and discovered it was a giant, ancient psychic jamming device, and the black bars are the maintenance logs. Was Operation Dragon a success? Tactically, it was a mixed bag. The Khampa could never hope to defeat the Chinese army in a full-scale war. Strategically, it was a triumph of endurance. The declassification shows that the operation successfully preserved the Tibetan leadership and created a permanent intelligence gap in the Chinese western flank. It was a success that proved the agency could operate in the most extreme environments on Earth, but it came at a staggering human cost for the Tibetan people. As far as technological and operational breakthroughs go, the heir of Tibet forged new ways for the agency to fight. Extreme altitude logistics, mastering the art of precision paradrops in mountainous terrain without GPS. Localized survival rations, developing nutrient-dense foods tailored to specific ethnic diets and climates. Cold weather electronics, creating radio sets and batteries that wouldn't freeze out at 15,000 feet. And cultural intelligence integration, the first time the CIA fully integrated spiritual beliefs into a guerrilla warfare strategy. Operation Dragon reminds us that the map of the world isn't just made of borders, it's made of the people who refuse to let them be drawn. The Khampa warriors may have traded their robes for rifles, but their fight for the roof of the world remains a ghost in the machine of modern history. The next time you look at the Himalayas, remember the planes that flew in the dark and the men who jumped into the wind. Thanks for listening, and do know we have another episode on the same topic. I believe it's titled something like The Monk with the Rifle. Join us next time as we examine the psychological profile of Adolf Hitler, which, yes, predates the CIA. It is the OSS, the agency's predecessor, who came up with the profile that we'll be covering. They were playing psychiatrist, and we'll uncover the exhaustive 1943 study by Dr. Walter Langer that attempted to predict Hitler's every move by peering into his childhood and his neurosis. Join us next time for The Mind of the Eagle. In the meantime, I'll see you in the archives.